You are listening to Viewpoints from PlaceCloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
We're standing next to Lauderdale Tower, one of the blocks of flats which was built as part of the Barbican Redevelopment Scheme. Looking southeast towards the 1980s office building with a curved glass roof, which you can see in the distance. From right to left, you can see the Barbican Housing Estate, Seddon House, Thomas More House, and Defoe House, all jostling for attention in the middle distance. Associated with nationalisation and the architectural style of New Brutalism, the Barbican Redevelopment Scheme was not originally meant to contain housing. Designed in the 1950s and built over 2 decades from 1963 to 1983, housing only became central to the new Barbican when it became clear that the City of London, the scheme's client and developer, was going to lose their one sitting MP in the House of Commons. A wheeze, therefore, was conjured up by the new Barbican Committee, the steering group for the development, to add housing to the scheme's brief. Never historically high, populations in the square mile had been decimated by war, and were as low as 5,000 in 1951, with only 28 residents permanently housed in the ward of Cripplegate at that time. Fostering a more affluent and cultured population in the City of London therefore became a key aim for the scheme over the course of its development. Said to be larger-than-life personalities, the architects for the most well-known part of the scheme, the Barbican Housing Estate and Barbican Arts Centre, were Peter Chamberlain, Geoffrey Powell and Christoph Bonn, who met while teaching at Kingston College of Art together in the late 1940s. Writing very little over the course of their careers, Chamberlain, Powell and Bonn once claimed to not be committed to any one particular style of architecture. Their work, however, does possess certain defining characteristics, in particular love of Baroque monumentality, and a belief that shaping three-dimensional space according to the client's needs was the principal task of the designing architect in the 20th century. In a rare publication for Reva Journal, Chamberlain once said of their work, "My approach to architecture is a search for the solution within the problem. We work in a time when there are no holds barred, either technical or aesthetic. There are too many materials to work with. Almost anything can be done structurally within the laws of gravity. Everything, therefore, has to be developed from first principles, with no yardstick for one's own interpretation of integrity and design." While Peter was not entirely right about the freedom granted to architects regarding the visual appearance of buildings, he was correct about the enormous changes that construction had undergone after the Second World War. This was a time when, due to rapid advances in reinforced concrete frame construction, buildings could be engineered to ascend much greater heights, as in the 29 and 31-story flats in the completed Barbican Estate. Technology was not the only facet of life that was undergoing transformation. Society and the economy changed massively too, from the Barbican Redevelopment Scheme's initial conception in the late 1940s to the completion of the Barbican Arts Centre in 1983, with the rise of the service sector, continuing deindustrialisation, and the advent of contemporary office work. Within the context of these changes, 6 buildings were constructed, all office buildings designed in unashamedly modern style, and placed equidistant from the north and south sides of a dual carriageway which runs along the Barbican Estate's southern boundary. Based on a rival plan for the Barbican's redevelopment produced by the head architect of London County Council, Leslie Martin, and City Planning Officer H. Anthony Maitland, The designs for the area around London Wall have been compared to Stockholm's Fortegate district and Le Corbusier's Plan Voisin. The merits of the two schemes were debated vigorously, and the new Barbican Committee eventually reached a compromise of granting responsibility for the planning of the residential buildings to Chamberlain, Powell and Bon, while the land around London Wall and Moorgate was to be given over to private developers, each with their own architect. The latter was to be based on Martin and Maitland's proposals, with the detail being worked out by LCC planners including Graham Shankland, Arthur Ling and Percy Johnson Marshall. Two of those office buildings, Lee House, designed by Sir John Burnett Tate and Partners, and St Alphage House, developed by Morris Wingate and based on designs by Morris Sanders Associates, were noteworthy for their curtain walling system, a construction element whereby, due to advances in the strength of building frames made of reinforced concrete, it became no longer necessary for the building's exterior walls to bear its weight. Permitting interiors that were open plan, the curtain wall had revolutionised the design and construction of modern buildings, in particular modern office buildings. Its ascension through architecture was rapid, from one of its earliest uses for the construction of high Victorian industrial buildings in Liverpool to a more recent use such as the Shard in London. For St Alphage House, the architect Morris Wingate Associate, most likely working together with the buildings engineer, opted for a curtain wall that was made of anodized aluminium, infilled panels of grey Muro glass with vertically sliding windows, and exterior panels manufactured from a new type of plastic called Holoplast, and arranged in 20-foot high two-storey assemblies. At Lee House, the assemblies were of a very similar modular design, also spanning 2 stories, but this time incorporating blue armour-clad infill panels with pivoted windows and aluminium sections. Today thought of as cheap, architectural plastics could be surprisingly expensive by 1960s standards, and the more than 75,000 square foot of Holoplast curtain walling that was employed in both office buildings cost £300,000 in total.